Hey,
Hey.
how you doing?
I'm good. I'm sorry I'm late. I was actually totally ready and then I just lost track of time because we are talking about some momentous things today and I got engrossed in doing some last minute research, but I'm also tweeting out that we are going live right now. So give me just 1 second and then we will get into it. I know you want to talk about Kanye West, I think. Is that right?
Yeah. I think he's really big in the news today.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah.
We've been neglecting him and it's such an important story.
It is. No. He does tie into this week.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really glad you're on that because some people just lost the track there. And let me.
No, for real though. Like Elon just banned Ali Alexander and Nick Fuentes, and basically that's election interference for 2024. Should he decide to run again? And please stop dead naming him. It's Ye.
I thought it was Ye. As in Ye Old Town.
Yeah, but that would be a little too literal. You still have to reference him. It's about you, but it's also more about him still.
Hey, Michael, your audio is a little weird. I don't know if that's me. I think it's you.
Is it?
I can hear you, but it's a little.
Is it abrasive?
No, it's like more slightly muffled.
Okay, I'm a
chat. Am I right?
Is that better? Test.
It's the same. It could be me. Chat, do you hear this or is it just me?
Mm-hmm. Anybody? Chat. Test.
Anybody?
1 2.
How does Mr. Michael sound?
I
mean, it's okay. It's fine. We can continue, but it's
just okay. Yeah, I'm coming through. It like the bar says I'm coming through, so yeah. We'll go. I could swap out if the chat says it's bad, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Let him know, chat, if he sounds weird.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he always sounds weird.
Yeah.
The Ali Alexander story, that was your way of injecting Kanye into this fucking thing, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, he's the most relevant person ever. And once we get into tech censorship this week, it will become relevant. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. But more importantly, we've got a dynamic background now. Look how professional we are.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's awfully dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
It's moving.
Yep. We're just like a CNN and Fox News now. You can turn off your brain and watch the pretty little thing in the background and take our word as experts.
No, I think I appreciate the comparison, but our production values are superior, but the content, we're still catching up with CNN.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying.
Yeah.
But they're just so smart. Don Lemon wore a hoodie over a suit jacket the other day.
I saw that. Yeah. He's catching up.
Which was actually like a news story. And many people on the right wing spent a considerable portion of their day commenting on that in public.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the theme for tonight is the multiple failures of the right wing over the last year, which has been a big issue for me personally and otherwise. But yeah, we'll get into this. People will understand what I'm talking about. But I was really excited about the right wing for many years. As people know, I had many people from the right on my show. Many of my friends, I think, are part of what's called the new right, not the old right, but the new right. But until a year ago, they were doing so well. Their critiques of the Democratic Party, the regime, the establishment, the media, big tech, so on point. And many of the critiques of MAGA, of the virus, of Wuhan, of the origins of lockdowns, even of, so-called race relations, they were often on point. But boy, once they started getting interested in sexual matters, they lost their damn minds. And we're going to talk about one example of that tonight. But yeah, I've been very disappointed in them over the last year or so. And this sort of focus on things such as Don Lemon's attire, I think really lose the script. But what do you want to talk about?
Oh, yeah. Well, on that note, I mean, it just runs with your criticism of the Republican Party in that they're the JV League, right? They're fundamentally not serious people.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're just a little less serious than the Democrats have been. But yes, I have said for many years that the Republican Party, for the last 100 years, has been the junior partner in the American empire, in establishing and maintaining the American empire.
Mhm.
And of course, you can see that in foreign policy, where the Democrats initiated almost every single major foreign policy move, almost all the wars, et cetera. And the Republicans went along with it in every case, but they were never the leaders or the initiators, except you could say for the Iraq War. But even there, I mean, those were neocons who were pretending to be Republicans who were really lifelong Democrats, and they proved that recently by going fully back into the party, into the Democratic Party. You know, that's where Bill Kristol and company hang out now. So yeah, I think even the Iraq War really was a Democratic Party war.
Mhm. So one person on the right wing that you did catch up with, though, is Buck Johnson, and people are really enjoying that interview.
Man, that was such a great interview, and I knew it was going to be too. I was so excited about it. And you know, I love Buck. I mean, he's a good friend of mine, and I've always liked the guy. When I first met him when he invited me on his show a few years ago, and I just thought, wow, this guy's such a great interviewer. And unlike so many people on the right wing in our world, he is a great interviewer. He's a great conversationalist. He has a very gentle demeanor and manner with him. But what is it? About him, very gentle demeanor about him. Yes. Or I could have just said just a very gentle demeanor. Very thoughtful, reflective. I always love talking to him. And in this interview, what happened with the story is that Buck and I haven't talked in about a year or so, which was the last time I was on his show. And I didn't know exactly what that was. I mean, there was no hostility, no unfriendliness, but you know, we just sort of lost touch for a bit. And while that was happening, he was converting to Orthodox Christianity. And I heard about this, and I had also saw like lots of people in our world on the right doing just that, becoming Orthodox Christians, which certainly on the surface level was just shocking to me. I didn't understand it. I began to understand it a little better recently, but I didn't really get it. And I wanted to talk to Buck about what this was about, this movement of people in sort of right-wing dissident politics toward orthodoxy and I guess traditionalism generally. And so we talked very personally in great personal detail. There's another thing that's great about Buck. He's very, very honest about himself and who he is. And he's very, very willing to be open about who he is and his vulnerabilities. It's a remarkable interview. And at the end of it, I tweeted out, I said, I now understand why so many of my friends, so many people I know have converted to Orthodox Christianity. Not that I am in any danger of doing the same thing. I am still, what's funny is I'm still fundamentally an anti-Christian. I mean, philosophically, I'm anti-Christian. Of course, you know, Bob Murphy called me the Antichrist not called me, he devoted 2 podcast episodes entirely to arguing that I am, I think, working for the Antichrist, or I'm part of the Antichrist's plan. He's not totally wrong in that, yes, my politics has been for decades formed basically in opposition to Christianity. And this might help people understand this a little better. I've also simultaneously argued that progressivism and left-wing politics generally are simply secularized Christianity. They're Christianity without the spiritual stuff, without the metaphysics. The moral structure of left-wing politics is deeply Christian. And other people have said the same thing. Curtis Yarvin has said this. Michael Malice has said this. And I don't understand then why they're not as hostile to Christianity as I am. I'm not hostile. Then again, I will say that my 2 greatest mentors are really the only 2 people who really could make a claim to being my mentor, were the 2 people who were the only good teachers I ever had. One was in college and one was in graduate school. This is Al Denman and Richard Bushman. They were wonderful teachers. They were great mentors. They were the best people I've ever known. They helped me tremendously in all sorts of ways. They were both ministers, Christian ministers. One was Presbyterian, and Dick Bushman, who's a big scholar, he's actually an apostle in the Mormon church. So I have, you know, sort of mixed feelings about Christians themselves. In fact, mostly I have positive feelings about Christian people, but Christianity as a doctrine, as a philosophy, is, I think, the root of all of our problems.
Okay.
Small talk.
Well, the irony of that Buck Johnson interview is that you are responsible for the Orthodox movement largely taking over his life and in the Libertarian Party, because our meeting at Texas was the catalyst that got all these people talking to each other.
True that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I didn't know that. He told me in the interview that's when I think he talked to Matt Erickson, and then also Vin Armani, who's been on my show and used to teach for us, are the ones I think who showed Buck the way to the church. Yeah, but he talked to Matt about this at RU Texas, which is interesting. Yeah, because that was, as I understand it, that was a cabal that was run by the Antichrist.
Exactly, dude. Yeah. Like, people got to remember where they came from on this one.
Well, I've heard that God works in strange and mysterious ways, so maybe that's just an example.
Yeah, I don't see you as the Antichrist. I see you more as an Old Testament Satan figure. Just
is that like with red and horns and stuff?
No. Like in the Book of Job, where you're the where Satan's more of a lawyer.
He's a lawyer. He's an
angel, like basically arguing against God, trying to get God to work out his points.
Good at arguing.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, you do follow the tradition of Milton's Lucifer, Satan figure. The whole man can create a world inside his own head is very postmodernist, and that he can live inside that world. That's a Luciferian satanic creation that you follow in, but it's all good.
Sure. I just don't worship anybody, including Satan.
No. Oh, yeah, you had that poll about do the elites worship Satan, and like 50% said yes or something. Well, here's the thing. Like, Satanism to me is just it's a sect of Christianity. You still believe in the Christian worldview. You just choose to worship one aspect of it.
That's why I'm not a Satanist. I'm just an Antichrist. I'm just opposed. That's all. I'm just anti.
Yeah.
Well, what's on the docket?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you want to get this out of the way? You want to get the Eliza Blue story out of the way?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're doing this basically, tech censorship, and this will come back to Ye, so don't worry.
Thank God.
Yeah. But Brittany Venti has been locked out of her account. If you guys remember her, she was she used to troll "He Will Not Divide Us," the art installment that what's his name, Shia LaBeouf put in New York City. So she would troll that. So she got some fame during that. Yeah, she's been a streamer for like 5 years, big in the dissonant right space. She's been on YouTube for this whole time, and she was just asking questions about Eliza Blue's backstory, and found a music video of hers where she was scantily clad, and it was during the timeline that Eliza Blue said she was being trafficked, and she posted some screenshots of this music video and said, "Hey, what's the story here? What's going on?" Just being a journalist, essentially, and just asking straight up questions. And then that led to Eliza flagging the post, saying it was a non-consensual photograph. And due to, all right, I'll turn my gain down on this. I think I'm eating the mic. That's probably it. Yeah.
That's what it is, yeah.
But yeah, so Brittany Venti got locked out of her account because Eliza Blue has a policy now with Twitter, because she claims to be working on the inside with Twitter, saying, quote unquote, non-consensual photographs are to be banned. So anybody who says that this photograph of me is non-consensual, that's taken down as part of a human trafficking avoidance policy. And the Quartering has been locked out of his account. Several people who are covering the story are being locked out of their accounts just for asking questions about her backstory and using publicly available images to discuss it.
Okay. Okay, so this is very important to talk about, but I want to be careful because Eliza, I know Eliza. She and I were on a show about 2 years ago. together. And this was the first time people were screaming at me about critiquing age of consent laws. And she had the perfect opportunity to join the dog pile and to slam me with everyone else in the right-wing Twitter sphere. And she didn't. And she was actually, for the most part, quite kind and decent to me and was friendly to me afterward. And we talked for a while on DMs, and it was all great, actually. I don't see in her, and I've watched many, many, many interviews with her now because I've been doing research on this recently, studied this pretty extensively, actually. And I haven't seen any evidence of any malice on her part. I don't see her going after individuals in any way. I've never seen her do that, attacking individuals. I've seen her attacking institutions like Twitter, the US government, various maybe nonprofits. But yeah, so I also, I don't know for sure that she is a liar. I don't know for sure that this is a fraud. I will say that it sure looks that way, but I don't know for sure. So I don't want to make any definitive statements about her. And in fact, I don't think we should be talking about her. What we should be talking about is how gullible, I guess, so many people in our world, so many podcasters, so many people in alt media over the last 2 or 3 years believed her entirely. I know, I can think of, God, half a dozen, maybe even 10 people I personally know who have had her on their show. What we need to talk about is the reason that I was suspicious of her story from the beginning, which was back when I first met her in July of 2021. The reason I was suspicious of her story was partly the way in which she told it, but mostly because I have been studying and writing about the issue of human trafficking, quote, I should say, quote, human trafficking, for many years. And I've written about it for Reason. I've written about it in Renegade History. I've worked with Elizabeth Nolan Brown at Reason. And by the way, everyone, if you're going to be serious about studying this issue, you must read Elizabeth Nolan Brown at Reason. She is by far the best journalist doing this, and she will change your mind very likely if you read her stuff. The second person to read is Maggie McNeil, who has a blog, and she's been writing about this for a decade, and she is an active sex worker, so she knows what she's talking about. So what I found over years of studying this issue is that the vast majority, and possibly all, of the so-called human trafficking survivor advocates, like Eliza, were simply prostitutes who voluntarily, consensually sold sex as prostitutes, as adults, just like Eliza. Eliza says that she was trafficked from the ages of either 17 or 18. She changes that sometimes, until she was 31. So she was an adult for most of this time, 15 or something years, right? Or 13 years. That's what I have found. She's very typical. If you look at human trafficking survivor advocates, activists in this space, you'll see that's their story. They have no claim to having been forced into anything. So as Eliza will say, the definition is force, fraud, or coercion to compel a person to sell their own labor or sex. Eliza, just like all these human trafficking people, has never said how any force, fraud, or coercion was used against her. She has talked about people exchanging money to have sex with her, which is prostitution. What has happened in the last 20 years, this has been going on since 2001, is that in the late 90s, the old alliance of feminists, second wave feminists, and Christian conservatives on the right, who were joined at the hip in the 1970s and 80s in their fight against porn, and they got a lot of pornography banned in places. They reunited after losing that fight about pornography. They reunited in the late 90s against this new thing that they invented, this term called human trafficking. Sometimes they say sex trafficking, but trafficking as a term, and you can look this up on Google, you can do the search yourself. Human trafficking, the term doesn't really exist before the late 90s. You can't find it in the media. But in the late 90s and early 2000s, it just explodes. And this was Hillary Clinton when she was in the White House as the first lady, working with many of the neocons who ended up working with in the George W. Bush administration to make this into a big issue. And then they ended up establishing a whole department within the State Department devoted to fighting human trafficking around the globe. And what you will find if you do the research on this, and this is in Elizabeth Nolan Brown's work, this is in Maggie McNeil's work, you will have a very hard time, might be impossible, to find a case of so-called human trafficking that involved force, fraud, or coercion to an extent that compelled someone against their will to sell sex. What you will find is lots and lots of police departments, and sometimes the State Department itself, but usually police departments, using this term to describe the prostitutes and pimps they just arrested. What has happened is a conflation of human trafficking, which is slavery, right? It's slavery we're talking about here, either for labor or sex, being conflated with prostitution.
Not to language police you there, but sex workers will say sex is labor,
Right.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Right. Yeah. To me, it's right. To me, it's all the same.
Yeah.
If you want to make that distinction between labor and sex labor, fine, but I don't. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So this has all been an attempt by originally feminists and Christian conservatives to renew the age-old attack on prostitution. They hate prostitution for their own reasons, which we all know about. And they were finding that they were losing this battle because the sex worker movement was beginning to gain some traction in the late 90s. And it actually kind of took off in the 2000s and 2010s. And they saw the commitment to criminalizing prostitution eroding among Americans. And they wanted to renew this and renew the attack on prostitution to keep it criminalized. And so what they did was they just conflated it with slavery. What you will see is regular prostitutes consensually exchanging sex for money being called victims of human trafficking, which immediately puts in your mind that they must have been forced into it. You just won't find it in the United States. It's extremely rare. I've researched this for many years, as I said, and I've actually researched the whole history of it going back to the early 20th century in the so-called white slavery panic, which was very, very similar. I have not been able to find a case in the United States, of someone actually being forced against their will to sell sex. Now, I do know that there is a ton of evidence in other countries, for sure, of women and children and boys and some men absolutely being forced into sex slavery, sure, and other forms of slavery, absolutely. In the third world, across the third world, we know this is happening and has been happening in the United States for various reasons, having to do mostly with the puritanical nature of American culture. We just don't have that here. It's just virtually impossible to keep someone as a slave and also and forcing them to have sex with strangers on a regular basis without ever being found out. Just think for a minute how hard that would be in this country, in a third world country where things are completely different. It's understandable how someone could get away with that, but here, just imagine doing that, in an ongoing basis, right? Maybe once or twice, but on an ongoing, it just doesn't happen. Now, what does this matter, right? do we care? I mean, so maybe she lied about her past. Maybe prostitution's been conflated with slavery. Well, what's happened is what the Christian conservatives and the feminists wanted, which is that a whole lot of people, women and men, who have been engaged in sex work have been locked up and put behind bars. And the sex worker movement has been discredited because of this as well, because it's claimed that they are just advocating for slavery. It also does tremendous damage to the idea of women having agency. Because to hear Eliza or these other advocates talk, she talks about being trafficked for more than a decade when she was an adult by some guy who apparently just had this incredible Svengali-like control over her mind. She has said she always had a cell phone. She was always in a city. She always had the ability to leave. She has never said he held a gun to her head or defrauded her or coerced her in any way. The idea always is that these pimps have this extraordinary, almost supernatural power over these women who are just helpless before them. So if you're going to take women seriously as adults, if you're really a feminist and want to treat women as adults rather than as children, you have to acknowledge that she had all the agency she could ever need, and she could have left at any time. And otherwise, we are putting ourselves in the business of being their dad, of being a paternal figure to save them. They're calling for women who choose this to be saved. And I have never been interested in doing that for anyone, any adult anyway, and certainly not any adult women. So it has set back the progress of women, and it has certainly tremendously damaged the lives of many women who are still in the trade, who walk the streets afraid of being put behind bars, and who have spent time behind bars. And the same thing with the pimps too. If it's consensual, which it almost always is, then why do we want to put pimps in prison? Why should this be illegal to begin with? So that's the problem. It's not that Eliza is a liar and a fraud, and that's what everyone's focusing on now. Twitter, there's now a big dog pile on Eliza about her being a fraud and a liar, etc. Okay, but that's not the problem. The problem is what she was saying in conflating prostitution with slavery, and she's part of this larger movement that has done tremendous harm to our world.
Yeah, focusing on her past is the Don Lemon hoodie of the story, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. This is not fair what I'm about to do to you, but you brought up Christianity at the top, and I don't know, you went hard after it, but your work seems to depend on an almost religious belief in free will.
Oh, going philosophical on me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so hi, Sam Harris. So this is one of Sam's big arguments, that there is no such thing as free will. And I've never heard him explain this adequately at all. I mean, he's never explained how we don't have free will. He just sort of says, it's obvious. I mean, you'd have to be crazy to think that we have free will. You'd have to be deranged, insane. Those are Sam Harris's stock arguments, by the way. Such and such a thing is crazy. So-and-so is insane. That's why they're wrong. Do I have a religious belief in it? No. He could be right.
Do you have a belief in it? Do you believe in free will? No?
No, I choose to operate as if we do.
Okay. Man, but
yes,
the core of your shit is the ego.
That's it.
Exercising.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm simply choosing to treat people as if they do.
Mm-hmm.
Until I see evidence that Sam Harris is right, that they don't have free will, I'm going to treat everyone in the world as if they do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. For me, there's no way to prove what Buck was talking about with Christianity. Like, there's no way to prove this stuff. Like, the point is you put your faith in it and you follow because you trust,
Right.
And so there's no way to prove free will, but it's one of those things that just locks things into place and gives the world meaning, and the world is better for it, and you actually start acting better, and without a belief in free will, or without seeing the world and human beings as free agents, you deny them their dignity, you deny them everything about themselves. They become robots, they become completely disembodied, you become disembodied. I remember reading Sam Harris's little pamphlet on free will, and then like for the next week I was in like this weird head phase where I just didn't feel real. Like it was really messed with me for a long time.
Well, most importantly, you also need to be saved.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have free will. Someone's got to come along and help you,
mm-hmm.
right? Because you're going to be led by whatever force it is that's controlling you into some bad place.
Mm-hmm.
Like these alleged human trafficking victims or survivors, right?
Yeah.
So someone's got, I mean, if no one comes and saves you, you're going to live in misery. That's what it does. It calls out for saviors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but basically what I'm saying is that the Christian worldview is the only worldview I've seen with a sophisticated paradigm of free will, I guess, where free will is the thing that squares the circle of, like, how could a God create a world with suffering? It's the thing that solves a lot of questions, and Christianity puts free will at the center of everything, and that's really the foundation upon which everything else is built on, in my view.
I'm gonna have to think about that one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good news is, I think I know what you mean. Although free will within Christianity, of course, it depends on which Christianity you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. There's predeterminists out there. There's
right.
Yeah.
But for many Christians, free will is what leads you to the devil.
Yeah, but like, again, you're not going to heaven, or like, if you don't choose of your own will to do the right thing, if that makes sense. Like, you've got to, like, God wants you to know him and choose to love him, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And you can't do that unless you're given the option of going to hell, of choosing to go to hell.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, this is good. Very good timing, because we're doing the Great Book series now. We just started Plato's Republic last night. We're going to be doing Aristotle's Politics in 2 weeks. And after that, my favorite book to teach, my favorite book to talk about, we're going to be having a course at Unregistered Academy on the Bible, which I have taught since the 1990s in the Great Books course at Columbia, and I love it. It is, you certainly don't understand this culture unless you read the Bible, and that's as simple as that. You just can't possibly really understand Western civilization without reading the Bible. So I will look at this. I will look at the Bible again through this lens, through the Weimarian lens of seeing. I like that the sophisticated take on free will is good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Milton more than the Bible itself, which is that really lays it out, and it's a cultural belief at this point, but still it's there.
Okay, I'm really interested in that. No, I really can't wait to do that. Actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the reason why I think the Eliza Blue story is important is because she has influenced Twitter's policy to where there's censorship.
Right.
So this human trafficking narrative is being used as a pretense to get rid of, I guess, actors that it's being used for her own personal agenda, which is where I find it kind of annoying. Like, there's things about her past that she doesn't want out there. Fine. There's things about all of our past that we don't want out there, but this is something that she chose to become a public figure. She chose to make these things public. Mm-hmm. And everybody has the right to look at publicly available things and ask questions about them and share them on a public discourse platform like Twitter. And she has used her position of power, where she has created the aura of herself as an expert on the subject due to claims that she's made about her past, to influence Twitter's policy to increase censorship.
Well, be specific what she did.
She and her friends flagged Brittany Venti, the quartering, and some other accounts who shared these photographs
and
screenshots.
And Elon Musk or whoever it is at Twitter who
Mhm.
likes Eliza Blue did her bidding and shut down many accounts
Yeah.
based on just what she said, which is just and what, by the way, so people understand, these were still photos taken from a video that Eliza did that was on YouTube and had been on YouTube for many years, by the way, which Eliza has said she was very proud of doing.
Mhm.
It's a world star hip hop video. It's a video vixen kind of video. It's a cheesecake, sort of softcore porn video. It's about 3 minutes long. Yeah. And people took stills from that. Brittany and other people took stills from that video and put it on Twitter. And then Eliza claimed that this was non-consensual.
Mhm.
And then Twitter took them down and then also smashed these accounts, right?
Yeah, and if this policy stays in place, anybody can claim that something was non-consensual, and then journalism essentially becomes impossible. Like you have to verify with the subject of every photograph, that this is something they want out there. That's impossible.
Yeah, no, I mean, she should absolutely be criticized for that. But way more importantly, Elon Musk and the new Twitter regime should be criticized for this.
For going along with it, yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, and it really speaks to the problems in the new Twitter. I mean, it's not so pretty, actually. And if they're making decisions like that, in some ways, it's worse than the old regime, because this is based on just who's friends with Elon, who has pulled Elon's heartstrings recently. And that's a bad look, and I'm sort of nervous about being there because who knows what could happen next.
Mm-hmm. And again, just yesterday, Ali Alexander and Nick Fuentes were banned once again from Twitter. Mm-hmm. They did nothing to violate Twitter's policy. They just are too radioactive, I think, for advertisers. I think that's all it is that Elon wants to make a profit off of Twitter, and you can't have advertisers if certain people talk about certain things. Elon said when he got Twitter that he wants it to be a First Amendment platform, that as long as it's not illegal, you can talk about it. And, nothing Fuentes or Ali Alexander has done to violate the First Amendment. Oh,
no. I mean, Fuentes has said that he likes Hitler. That I'm pretty sure is protected by the First Amendment, according to the Supreme Court. In fact, I know it is. Ali Alexander, so for people who don't know, he's a big MAGA activist. He's been one of the main leaders on the ground of the MAGA movement. And
Stop the Steal specifically.
Yeah, January 6th especially. He looks a lot like Sammy Davis Jr., which I've never understood how that happened or what that's about. Or I would like more people to comment on that. But I have no problem with Ali Alexander. I mean, he has some violent rhetoric I've heard him use about, his enemies. But yeah, I mean, this the new censor isn't any better than the old censor. Just not. I mean, if Brittany Venti gets taken down for that, and the quartering gets taken down for that, I'd rather have the old regime. Honestly, I really would. At least that was more predictable. You sort of knew why you were getting taken down, but this is just based on a whim, based on sort of personal connections, super corrupt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we should say that we are pretty much on borrowed time or limited time here on YouTube. We are live streaming on Rumble, and it looks like Rumble is way more committed to free speech. We are still on Odyssey for replay, and everything will always be up on Odyssey. They're great people, but we would like to stream more on Rumble and get a big audience there.
Are we not streaming on YouTube right now?
We are on YouTube, yeah.
Okay, good.
We're simulcast on both.
That's what I thought, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. No, you and I have talked about this a lot in the recent weeks, and I am leaning heavily toward moving entirely to Rumble, doing what Glenn Greenwald has done, doing what Russell Brand has done, and I think other creators have done this, content creators. I've never used that term before, but whatever. Other podcasters. And I, for many reasons, but I can't live like this. And all the podcasts I watch, every episode, there will be many moments where they'll spell out a word, right? Or they'll, say, well, we can't talk about this subject because we'll get taken down, or I'm really afraid to say such and such because we'll get taken down. It's just no way to live, and that's no way to do journalism. Mm-hmm. And it's certainly no way to operate if you are like us or like the people I'm talking about in the podcasting world, who are all very dedicated to free speech and into being dissidents and to saying what's unpopular and to saying what you're not supposed to say. We have to have a platform where we are free to speak, and we are not free to speak on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. And on YouTube, we get if we're lucky, we get 1/10 of our reach of subscribers. So if you want to follow us on YouTube, you really have to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want any chance of seeing us on YouTube. But we get about 1/3 of our subscriber base on Rumble. And from watching more stuff on Rumble, it's way more intelligent. YouTube is basically trying to dumb you down. They're trying to show you the dumbest possible content. It's basically, YouTube wants to be the platform that you give your child an iPad for, and they just do that for 3 hours. If you want to see what you want to see, if you want real intelligent discourse, you've got to go to Rumble. You've got to go to an alternative platform.
I myself, as a consumer, have been on Rumble kind of regularly for about 3 weeks now. Since Glenn Greenwald started his show, System Update, which I heartily recommend, by the way. It's clearly the best second best news analysis show on the internet after Unreported. But it's on Rumble exclusively. He does not have anything on YouTube anymore, which I think is really brave. I mean, of course, it's easy when you're Glenn Greenwald and you have immediately like 300,000 subscribers, no matter where you are. But still, it's Rumble, as you said, it's well curated, and I find in the suggestions lots and lots of videos I'm so glad they told me about. Yeah, but if you watch this show, all you got to do is go on Rumble and hang out there. You're going to find all your favorite people there. It's truly superior, and so far they seem to be completely committed to free speech. So Rumble seems to be the future. I'm glad there is a future. It's just a question of how long it will take for Rumble to be equal to YouTube or exceed it, but it's moving fast. It's growing really fast, and we got audience there doing with very little effort very quickly. So I am quite optimistic, actually. And Glenn Greenwald, I think he has 300,000 subscribers now, and you can watch. I mean, just in the course of a day, you can see him like gain several thousand followers on Rumble. So I'm quite optimistic for the first time about this.
Yeah, and this played out publicly when Crowder went after Daily Wire for their contracts.
Right.
Yeah, there's a potentially $50 million contract offered to Steven Crowder. Yeah, but that includes his production costs, and there's a lot of hefty fines. So it's a little. Yeah,
of course. I mean, that's what I was going to say. That's of course what the left, focused on.
Yeah,
with the story, like everybody's like, "Oh, can you believe Steven Crowder's making $50 million in basketball player money?" That's not the issue, guys. I'm glad he made that much money. I'm glad he makes that. I'm glad people in our world make that much money. It's good for all of us that dissident intellectuals can get paid that well. That's a great thing. Steven Crowder, I'm not a fan, and many things he says I think are gross, but he also says a lot of things that are dead on, brilliant, and that no one else is saying, that are true dissent. And that has to be protected, and that needs to be celebrated. And I hope it gets paid, and he's getting paid. But yes, so the story is this right, that the Daily Wire told him in a contract negotiation that he would lose money every time he got a strike or was taken down on YouTube? Yeah,
essentially he'd be given hefty fines if his content was demonetized by big tech or taken down by big tech. Right. Basically linking his contract, when Daily Wire is supposed to be an independent outlet, to big tech.
Right. Well, they're famously critical of big tech.
Yeah.
And famously critical, especially of the censorship of big tech. And this is what's his face? Ben Shapiro's outfit.
Yep. Jeremy Boring runs it, and Ben Shapiro, Andrew Klavan, Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh are all there. Oh, Jordan Peterson has a contract there. Candace Owens. They've been growing.
Candace Owens, right? They're giant. Giant. Those people are all multi-millionaires too because of it. Yep. So so they're hypocritical, is what you're saying.
Well, no, I just think this is a great thing. I thought, like the left did, I thought Crowder was being like just annoying, complaining about, oh, I got this contract and it's not exactly what I want. For me, if you have a dispute with somebody like that, do it behind closed doors. It's a contract. It's between you and him. The public shouldn't know about this. Right. But the more I looked into it, and especially after seeing him on Tim Pool, is he's basically giving free game out to all the content creators and telling you how the game is run, and letting people know what's in these contracts and what to look out for and decisions that need to be made. I understand from Daily Wire's perspective in that, like, if Crowder puts out content that jeopardizes their ability to reach out to other people on these platforms, they have every right to fine him and do whatever they want. But I also understand Crowder's perspective in that there's no dollar amount you can place on my creative curation process.
I guess, isn't his main point that Daily Wire and others in what he calls big conservative, claim to be fighting big tech censorship, but are absolutely not fighting it? Isn't that?
That is a claim. Now, I think if you look at Crowder's work, a lot of that could be said about Crowder as well. Crowder is also a little bit of a gatekeeper sometimes. Owen Benjamin used to work for him.
Oh, yeah, right.
He would make those complaints.
I saw that the Owen Benjamin had a beef with him too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was unclear what that was about. But I mean, that sounds right to me. Crowder's critique sounds right. I mean, if they are doing that behind closed doors, if they're docking their own people for getting flagged on YouTube, rather than fighting YouTube, or rather than, establishing an independent autonomous platform, which is what they all should be doing all the time, like, Gavin McInnes has done, and other people like that who have been thoroughly canceled. They just go and have their own. And Tim Pool, right? He has his own platform. He doesn't have to worry about this stuff. And in fact, Tim Pool was offered a big deal with the Daily Wire, right? And he turned it down and instead went and built his own independent platform, which is absolutely the thing to do. So Crowder's critique seems right to me, that these people are hypocrites and phonies.
No, it's just, for me, big tech is the devil that you just have to work with. Like, we're working with YouTube right now. We're on there, and I know we're eventually they'll kick us off, and when that happens, we'll go a little bit more unhinged on Rumble. But
no. But we fight every second. That we talk about this on YouTube, about YouTube. I've talked about it on Twitter, many times. I am super public about everything they've done to us, and I am very publicly, aggressively opposed to it, as are you. And so, no, that's different. I mean, we're not hiding. We're walking the walk. Yeah,
but Daily Wire has built an infrastructure where you get, like, what's Matt Walsh's documentary, What is a Woman? Like, that couldn't be on YouTube. So that's behind a paywall. They have paywalled content that is too spicy for YouTube. So that's completely fair for them to do their own strategy and say, hey, if you jeopardize us losing our entire channel and jeopardize our ability to reach new viewers at all, that we can dock your pay from a very generous pay to begin with. I totally understand that. And that's where I'm at. But again, I think there's topics that you don't like to talk about because you find them personally distasteful. There's topics that a lot of people don't like to talk about,
Only Kanye West.
Yeah, exactly. But with every actor you engage with, when Grandma is in the room, there are things I don't talk about. Is Grandma an evil censor? Like, everybody you do business with affects how you talk all the time.
Well, it's just about the necessity of protest. Like, if Daily Wire did what we do, which is like put our stuff on YouTube, but protest loudly every time they censor us, that's fine. Of course, it's the courage of protesting the people they claim to be opposing.
Yeah.
So that's all.
We are cooler than Daily Wire. We are definitely cooler. That's for sure.
We fucking better be.
Yeah.
Have you seen them?
Yeah.
No comment necessary, right?
Yeah. I was into them between 2016 and 2018. I liked that Ben Shapiro was consistent. He was very, very biased, but he was consistent. Yeah. That's what I like about him.
I actually respect him a lot, or at least I used to. I don't know if I haven't watched him recently, but no, I think he's quite smart, and I think he makes some excellent arguments. Also, I can't talk too much shit about Ben Shapiro because my son was a Ben Shapiro fan a while ago when he was in high school. He kind of got semi-red pilled by Ben Shapiro.
Yep. So there, but for the grace of God, go I.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, well, if you want to keep talking about big tech has had a bunch of layoffs. Yeah.
I don't know.
This is what Saifedean Ammous calls, if you watch Well, Seifedine calls this fiat economy, essentially, where everything is fake, that all these jobs were fake. And
Yeah.
a lot of these work from home people, or a lot of these daycare jobs, if you watch the TikToks of a day in the life at Meta or a day in the life at Twitter, essentially were fake jobs that weren't actually changing anything. When Elon Musk took over Twitter, he fired 75% of the staff, and things are running just as well as they were before. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, downtown San Francisco is a ghost town.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually a crisis. The local media here talks about it every day. I mean, if you walk down Market Street in downtown San Francisco, it's there's no one there, and the skyscrapers are empty. They have incredible vacancy rates. If you want to get a really good deal on some commercial real estate, come to San Francisco, and I mean that. Rents are plummeting because everyone's working from home, and also we have all these layoffs. So there's just no need for offices anymore in the heart of Silicon Valley. Is that a good thing? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think Silicon Valley and big tech need a big shakeup, and that's, I think, what they're getting. And you know what? I think Rumble is right on the verge of presenting a true challenge to YouTube's dominance. And that alone, I mean, once they've never had any competition, never any competition, really. Twitter still hasn't really. I mean, Mastodon slightly, Getter slightly, but
Truth Social.
People are really on that. But now, looks like we're getting ready to have some real competition going on. And that's what's going to do it. I mean, that's the whole, that is the whole problem. If they had had competition this whole time, we'd have none of these problems, right? It's that they've always had monopolies. There's also, and this is really bad and dangerous, unfortunately, I think the most likely way they will get reined in or broken up is through federal antitrust lawsuits, that the government's going to come after them with antitrust stuff. The government's going to come in and demand all sorts of reorganization on the government's terms, right? And federal government is just going to become even more in control of things like Twitter than they already were. The FBI coming to your office once a week for meetings and telling you which accounts to censor is one thing. But once they take your ass to court and, are threatening your very existence, you're willing to cut some deals with the government and do things the way that they want them done. So I think that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Google will actually get worse because of that soon. And so it's even more imperative that we build our own alternatives. We must keep building social media alternatives. Thank God for Rumble. But let's keep going. I've been saying this for years. That's the only way to go. They must have competition.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I also want to talk about AI. Chat GPT is taking over the world. In 5 days, I think it got to 100 million users. And I think 75. It took 75 days for. I'm stealing this from Scott Galloway, but it took 75 days for Snapchat, was it? But like all these other tools, this is basically the fastest growing app ever.
Yep.
Is Chat GPT. And everybody's saying that all jobs are going to be completely useless. If you have a copyright job, just retire now. It's self-driving cars to the extreme that you're going to lose all your jobs. That AI is going to completely take over everything creative.
Yes. My girlfriend showed it to me, and she plugged in some terms and parameters, and I think 20 seconds later, we got like a 20-page detailed essay that was, I'd say, I was a college professor for many years. I graded many essays. It would have been like at least a B+. It could have been an A-, maybe even an A. And so my initial thought was, I'm going to kill myself, because this is the death of writing, that people will stop writing. And it's the death of creativity, because we're just going to rely on machines to be creative for us, to write our novels and our movies for us. But I think I've changed my mind on this. And I actually am curious. You and I haven't talked about this. I'm curious what you think about this. But so when I was a professor, and I was at Columbia and Barnard and the New School and Occidental College, these elite schools, right? This is like the cream of the crop. 50% of the students were close to illiterate. I was shocked by this. I mean, they really couldn't write at all. These are the elite college students in this country. And then about 40% were basically competent, could put together an essay, like almost as good as Chat GPT. What's it called?
Chat GPT.
Chat GPT. And then 10% were really, really good writers who were talented and really should be writers, and were very good at it, wrote very well. So I think what's happening here is that AI is, I think, for the 90% who really don't need to be writing because they're not talented at it, they will use AI to write, and their writing consequently will be better, which I think is better for all of us. I mean, most people don't need to write, and they shouldn't write because they're not good at it. And so it's better to have machines do it for them. The 10%, though, AI will never, ever replace the 10% of people who are really, truly talented writers. I don't think it can ever replace that creativity. It can never create original writing the way that human beings do at the top levels. So I think we're going to have better writing overall in our society. And I think that the top levels would be basically unaffected.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
Yeah, for me, if you're an artist or if you're a creative and you're really worried about this, I think you're basically admitting that you have no creativity and that you're completely phoning it in when you work.
Mm-hmm.
For me, when I read anything by ChatGPT, it's like, all right, you might have given it a B+ or an A-, but like if I was grading it, that would only be if like the rubric had no aesthetic judgments upon it. Like it's passable. Like everything is functional and it works, Right. It's not beautiful or creative necessarily.
It's competent.
It's competent. Exactly. It's
Right.
Functional. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But again, that's the 90%, that's all they will ever be able to do at best. And that's great. And so they're going to be able to do that even better with less work. And that's fine. I mean, people have different talents. Some people are good at writing and some people are good at other things. By the way, this is no diss on anybody. I mean, I can't paint or draw to save my life. I can't sing or play music to save my life. There's all kinds of shit I'm terrible at. Math, my God, basically all STEM fields I'm retarded in. Oops, there goes YouTube. Am I going to get, is there a strike for that? Yeah, no, I think this is so after wanting to kill myself, peering into a dystopian future, I thought I now see it's actually a good thing.
Yeah. And I think, if you want to, just people need to be smarter art consumers. That's all it is. An AI will never be able to produce a live concert played by real people. Yeah.
I'm a little more nervous about this. What's it called? The the fake photos.
That's huge. That's huge because you won't be able to trust anything you ever see on a screen, period.
And what's going to happen. I mean, all of us probably at some point are going to get, some fake photo of us on social media that makes us look really bad or is embarrassing or is used to extort us or God knows. But that's scary. I'm
going to risk YouTube. What I told you about YouTube censorship is to free yourself mentally of the fear of YouTube. And I'm going to do that right now. But the conspiracy theorists have been right about this for the whole time, in that they've always been saying whatever you see on TV, just assume that it could have been faked. Whether it's the moon landing, whether it's videos of Osama bin Laden, whether it's CGI Joe Biden, or that last video on January 6th that Trump sent out where he was behind a weird background. It was only his torso, and he said, "Everybody go home." That could have been CGI. That could have been something. I think the CIA and the government have had tools to fake just about anything visually forever. And just because you see it on TV doesn't mean it's real. And you just have to assume that from now on.
Well, yeah, I mean, but how many people will
yeah.
assume that, right? How many people? You got to remember, Michael, I mean, most people are not smart at all. So, I mean, honestly, they're just not. I mean, not anyone who watches, a show like this, but I mean, most people would have no idea what we're talking about. I mean, it's just true. I mean, I've come to that realization in recent years. I mean, well, what is it? I tweeted this recently, like 50% of American adults read below 6th grade level, which means they're basically illiterate. Like they can't really read a book. That's Americans. That's in the wealthiest country on earth. I mean, my heavens, we are dumb as a people, which is another reason to be opposed to democracy.
Mhm.
You want to talk about that? We're going to slam Christianity in the first half and then democracy in the second half. So we're equal opportunity.
So it balances out. Yeah.
Right and left. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But no, I mean, truly it is like, that's one of the things I think about is like democracy means these knuckleheads, who believe, in Bigfoot and UFOs and angels, which is most Americans, by the way, majority of Americans believe in those things.
2 out of 3.
They get it. Yeah, they get to, they get to make life or death decisions for the entire planet. If you're an American, you get to make decisions that could kill the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
And they're idiots. It's terrifying. They get to select who the president is, who the commander in chief with his finger on the nuclear button is. These morons who have no idea where Ukraine is. They get to choose the fucking president.
Yeah.
Who can kill us all. Anyway.
Yeah. We both have sad experiences with the New Deal course, talking to people who didn't even know what the New Deal was when we're trying to explain what we do at unregisteredacademy.com. And we're like, wow, there really is no hope of reaching the general public if it's that deep of a hole to climb out of.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I have known some PhDs who didn't know what the New Deal was. And boy, was that an eye opener. I was like, let's cancel the vote for everybody immediately until we figure out what's going on here. This is a crisis.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm a break from the Christianity story. We might get to that, but Ukraine, we're sending tanks now. We're sending Abrams tanks. The United States and Germany are sending Abrams tanks. Oh man, I watched CNN for the first time today in a long time. Yeah, they just take spokespeople from NATO and completely uncritically just repeat them and put them on as experts.
Or they take all of the people who pushed for the Iraq War and put them on. I mean, truly. I mean, take the top 50 people who called for the Iraq War in 2003, and they all have jobs at CNN, commenting on foreign policy specifically. It's astonishing. Yeah. So yeah, the Germany's giving tanks. The UK is probably going to give some tanks. There's a movement to send some Abrams tanks. And now they're asking for F-16 fighter jets too. And that's likely to happen. In fact, one of the European countries has already said they're ready to give F-16s to Ukraine too. Yeah, that's going to mean just more people dead. And Russia's still winning. There's just no way that Russia can lose this war unless NATO countries put their own troops on the ground. And, I don't think that's going to happen, although there has been a bit more of a push in the West to do that, but I don't see that happening. Meanwhile, Zelensky gives this speech to the Chamber of Commerce in Boca Raton, I think it was, in Florida, via Zoom, and says, it's a great place to do business. Come to Ukraine, do business. You can do big business here.
So real quick, I've got that clip. If anybody thinks that is being a little overzealous or offensive with his impersonation, he is exactly on point. He's actually toning it down a little bit. This is that speech.
It is obvious that American business can become the locomotive that will once again push forward global economic growth. We have already managed to attract attention and have cooperation with such giants of the international financial and investment world as BlackRock, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs. Such American brands as Starlink or Westinghouse have already become part of our Ukrainian way. Your brilliant defense systems, such as HIMARS or Bradleys, are already uniting our history of freedom with your enterprises. We are waiting for Patriots. We are looking closely at Abrams. Thousands of such examples are possible, and everyone can become a big business by working with Ukraine in all sectors, from weapons and defense to construction, from communication to agriculture, from transport to IT, from banks to medicine. And I believe that freedom must always win.
Our history of freedom in Ukraine. I wonder if he's referring to World War II when Ukrainian forces were led by an outright anti-Semite fascist, Bandera, who slaughtered tens of thousands of Jews and Poles. Or, maybe more recently when they're, talking about, a country that is absolutely controlled and beholden to NATO countries, especially the United States, a country that's been run basically by the CIA and the State Department for years. Are they talking about that? Are they talking about the shelling of civilians in the Donbass in 2014 and 2015, the killing of civilians and children by artillery, by the Azov Battalion, which are outright explicit Nazis who wear Nazi regalia? Are they talking about that free history of freedom? I don't know. It is, we knew before the war, because that's when Western media was spilling the beans about Ukraine, that it is the most corrupt country in Europe, and that it's certainly its military has quite a few outright Nazis in it. So, which history of freedom is that? But yeah, you can do big business in Ukraine. Clearly, and that's what's been going on. There's been a lot of business going on. It's been called by some people the great money laundromat of Europe. But everybody should go check out, just Google Panama Papers and Zelensky. So many years ago, or maybe a couple of years ago, it was shown that Zelensky has made tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars, basically through graft, corruption, bribes, etc.
Yeah, was this 2015? If I remember, that sounds about right.
Panama Papers?
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, I mean, it was whenever that happened. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's more like longer than that. Yeah, but I think that the revelations about Zelensky were later because he became famous later. But I could be wrong. Anyway, but yeah, no, I mean, that's established that the guy is filthy rich, like super filthy rich, like even richer than American politicians. And he's basically laying the groundwork because he's also on the verge of getting ousted. It looks pretty clear. He's laying the groundwork for a nice retirement at a villa in Miami or something like that. So he wants more money pouring in. We know very well, because people in Congress have been saying this, that we have no idea where that $110 billion went. We have no accounting of it whatsoever. $110 billion went to Ukraine, and there's no receipts as to where it went. So we're pretty sure that a lot of it went to Zelensky and his buddies in the Ukrainian government.
Daryl Cooper has like the 3 best podcasts, in my opinion, on Ukraine.
Cool.
And in one of them, he was laying out how Ukraine is the country that has sent more money to United States politicians than any other country in any other period of time. And this is, I think Michael Tracy tweeted out the other day that it has like a GDP comparable to Mississippi. Like, this isn't a particularly large or rich country. And here it is bribing American politicians more than any other country ever has. And coincidentally, it's the country that we need to send weapons to fight to the last Ukrainian forever.
Yeah, I mean, Ukraine is mostly a giant wheat field. It's mostly farmland. So no, it's not a rich country, never has been. But yeah, they have found a grift by courting NATO and courting the United States by posing as the great bulwark against the Russian bear. So they are the last. They have positioned themselves as the last stand, against Russian aggression. And if Ukraine falls, then the whole free world falls, which is all absolute, complete nonsense. There is zero evidence that Putin has any intentions in any country except possibly the former Soviet republics. Even there, it's not clear he wants to do anything. But outside of there, he's not going to go into Poland. Are you insane? Or Germany? Or what are you talking about? I mean, people actually say this stuff, that he wants to bring back the Warsaw Pact countries. He wants to invade, Czechoslovakia and Hungary and zero evidence. The psyop about Vladimir Putin, which has been going on since 2004 when he first started making noise about NATO, is, I think it might be the greatest psyop in American history, which is saying a whole lot, because it is just an amazing amount of lies, and so many people, even very smart, educated people, have fallen for it hook, line, and sinker, including some good friends of mine who have a very prominent libertarian podcast, who just today were talking about how Ukraine should bomb Russian cities, and that they're all for sending as many tanks as possible to Ukraine because of course, Putin is evil. And we just know that. He just is. It all started with, the Western media calling him a homophobe, which he probably is, but, playing that up. And as I've said many times here, that's what got all the housewives who watch MSNBC to hate Putin. And then, of course, Russiagate, even though it's utterly debunked, people still think that Trump, the evil Trump, was put into office by Putin. And so, the typical low information liberal voter has in his or her mind, usually her mind, that he's a homophobe who has infiltrated our society and has placed the devil in office.
I forget when we went over this, but he's also a mean, aggressive bully with mommy issues.
Oh, well, yeah,
Remember
there was
that?
that amazing video by that woman that was she like a Hollywood actress or something?
Yeah, I was an actress. Yeah.
She looked like a Hollywood actress. Yeah. If she were his mom,
Mm-hmm.
he would never have invaded Ukraine because that's his problem.
He just wasn't hugged enough.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, the problem with Putin's family is that half of them were killed in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. And he really doesn't want that to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
He really is bothered by the prospect of a major military power on his border. Like when World War II happened and Germany invaded Soviet Union and killed his family.
Mm-hmm.
That's what has animated this guy. Am I a fan of Putin? Fuck no. I could give a shit about Putin. Fuck Putin. But he's a rational actor with a very important past that he shares with most Russians, right? Not most. I think basically all Russians have dead ancestors who were killed in World War II. 20 million of them were killed. And that is present. It's an active thing in the Russian mind and in Russian culture. The opposition to another war like that, doing anything they can to stop it. And God damn it, it's true. Hillary Clinton, Bill Kristol, Bush, all these people have wanted to remove him and his government and to place a puppet government in his place and to control Russia. And if that means invading or through military action, they're willing to do that. That's very clear. NATO has been amassing a huge military force on the border of Russia for years and years and years. And I just can't imagine a leader acting any differently. If China had an alliance, a military alliance with Mexico, Mexico would be a plane of glass. We would bomb it so thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the fact that the Western media never mentions anything prior to February 24th, they never mention the people of the Donbass, what happened in Donbass. They can't, because if they do, if you look at the history before February of 22, and if you look at the recent history of the Donbass, there's just no way you will support sending tanks to that country. There is no way you will support sending anything to Ukraine. You are very likely to be in solidarity with the people of Donbass who have suffered more than any people on the planet since 2014. You may not support the Russian invasion, and I don't, but I am absolutely in solidarity with the people of Donbass who overwhelmingly not only want to be part of Russia, they needed Russia to invade to save their lives. They were encircled and being bombed and shelled on a daily basis. If you wouldn't call for a military to save you, an external military, you're crazy. Mm-hmm. So I completely understand what they did. I wish it hadn't happened. I am not in support of it, but I get it. And I just wish Americans, you low information people, please just read a little bit of history.
To quote Frank Zappa, don't knock America's ignorance because that's what makes us great.
Well, we're so incredibly good at so many things. I mean, Americans are fabulous, like magicians, in so many fields. But when it comes to things like, the world outside of America, geography, global politics, mm-hmm. international relations, foreign policy, no, they're just hopelessly inept. And,
Sean Cosgrove in the chat says maybe he needs to read more history. And I want to show the website, unregisteredacademy.com, and just show people, let me see.
The NATO course.
Yeah, the NATO course. It got a lot to make this real easy. So a lot of people, the big lie about Putin is that he's Hitler. And, if you want a good course on World War II, we've got it, where you learn that Hitler wasn't even Hitler. And that this idea of an evil tyrant who wants to take over the entire world that must be stopped, and he will take over the entire world, and millions of people will die if good people do nothing. that is just a complete fiction.
Yep.
And if you just want to see how the website works, we've got our World War II course, and once you're signed in, at the bottom right, there's a menu with all of our courses. And clicking on World War II, for example, you get the videos, and then bottom right here, you get the audio. So just like you would listen to a podcast or audiobook, you can access it through SoundCloud, so you can listen to it in the background while you drive or while you work. And if you click here, you get all the course notes, all the slides that Thad uses if you want to read back and go over some recommended reading. We'll put more resources up there, but there's the World War II course. There's the History of NATO course, which is absolutely essential for this. There's reading
with Scott Ritter, by the way.
Scott Ritter
is the co-teacher in that. The great Scott Ritter. But yeah, I keep going. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say James Carden is also a superstar in that one.
Well, that's right. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Both, God, Jesus. James Carden and Scott Ritter, like superstars. Totally. It was a great course.
Yeah.
I think, and I've been thinking this for a while now, we must do a course on the Ukraine war, on the history of it since 91. I've not seen in one place. I mean, maybe Daryl's Cooper's podcast has done this, but that's in 3 episodes. I don't know, but I've never seen in one place like a comprehensive history that I'm talking about of the war that will show people that this is not something you want to be supporting. And it's, I really want to do that. We can pull together an incredible cast of teachers to teach that too. But thank you for showing that. The Academy's looking good.
It is. Yeah. And the thing is, like, part of your appeal is you make this stuff look easy, Like, I mean, not look easy, but sorry. Make this stuff accessible to people. Like, you are actually reaching out to the general public, which a lot of people in academia pretend that they're above that they like to be in their ivory tower, and doing pop culture or like reaching out to people outside of your ivory tower is looked down upon, and you're seen as selling out and not doing serious work. When really, if you want to make a difference, that's what's important, man.
1000%. Thank you. No, I love that I make it look easy, if that's true.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I mean, when I was teaching at Columbia and Barnard, this is in the 2000s, I started writing op-eds for newspapers because I wanted to do this. I wanted to become a public intellectual. I wanted to like change people's minds outside the goddamn campus. And at that time, there were a handful of professors who would do that, but mostly they would not. I mean, I'm talking about professors who taught political science, who taught every single day and wrote about things just like this every single day, but never spoke outside the campus, right? I got to tell you, I mean, overwhelmingly, people look down on those of us who wrote op-eds in newspapers, which that back then in the 2000s was the only way you could be a public intellectual. This is really before Twitter and all this and YouTube and stuff.
Or God forbid you become a YouTube live streamer.
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, if those professors at Columbia saw me now and who I hang out with and the world I operate in, oh Lord have mercy. Yeah. It would just confirm all their priors about me. But yeah, no, the academics, this is yet another reason they are the most pathetic, cowardly people on the planet, for whom I have no respect. I mean, as a class, I mean, of course, there are individual academics I admire, but as a class of people, they are completely pathetic children who are afraid of their own shadow and would never take a stand that means anything to save their life.
Yeah, no, I really feel sorry for them in how much fear they live in. Like it's tangible. So yeah. So yeah, the website's looking good. You want to know how I was able to work through all that? How I've had this giant boost in productivity?
Yes.
I started drinking this concoction called Magic Mind.
Yes. It is good.
Yeah, it is.
It's really good. And the green tea it truly is like, it's the perfect level of caffeination, and then also it has all these nootropics in it that, I think do help with focus and cognitive ability and stuff like that. I mean, it's really, I love it. And I drink it every day, every morning, and it tastes good. They just changed the flavor. I love the original flavor. I had no problem with the original flavor, but they made it even better. It's great. Magic Mind. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Well, now that you've done the ad, tell them about the discount. It's,
I'll highlight it. magicmind.co/unregistered. You got to go there. And then promo code unregistered 20. And I'm cheap. I don't buy stuff. Like, there's all these content creators that I supposedly support, but I don't buy their Patreons. I don't do anything. Like, I just talk about them. Mm-hmm. magicmind.co/unregistered, promo code unregistered 20. But the reason why I bought this is I did the research. I looked into what's actually in there, and I looked at my cabinet, and nootropics are real. Like, lion's mane mushroom, I buy that and I use that, period. Like, it's a mushroom that's good for allowing brain cells to grow. It's a supplement. You get it over the counter. It's fine. Ashwagandha is in there. Yeah.
Yep. That's a big one. A lot of people use ashwagandha. That's in Magic Mind too. Yep.
Yeah. I had L-theanine for a while. I don't have that anymore, but that's in there too. A lot of bodybuilders who take pre-workout use L-theanine to take the jitters off. And if you know anything about these adaptogens, and if you know anything about the male body, for it to function, you need to be relaxed. And that's all I'll say about that. The caffeine is...
that's true for trans men as well, of course.
Yes, yeah. So olive oil, they use olive oil because you need fat to get this stuff past the blood-brain barrier. So people who put butter in their coffee or whatever, it helps caffeine release over a slower amount of time. That's facts. So, and you've got vitamin D and vitamin C for your immune system. It's legit. It's a real thing. And really what they're selling you, though, is that it's a cult. Like, they're selling you the habit of drinking something every day and intentionally doing work, which is good for you. Like, just if they sold you complete placebos, you'd be more productive.
There's bad cults. We know about those, Jonestown, the Manson family, but then there's good cults like Magic Mind.
Totally. And they'll send you email stuff. They'll send you their texts. They have a Bible called Beyond Coffee to get you hooked on it. Yeah.
But no one will visit your house. We promise that.
Only if you leave. Only if you unsubscribe from Magic Mind. Then people will leave.
Then they'll come find you. But otherwise, it's fine. There's no problem. True. Well, we have 5 minutes left. What do you want to do?
Yeah. Man. Everything I bring up will take up too much time. I will say some of the goofier stuff I've been showing you. I'll just take a peek behind the curtain. The more crazy cultural stuff I've shown you has been trying to shock you into becoming culturally conservative, and it's worked on a couple times. I had a video of MGK on the Drew Barrymore show. Did you see that?
Machine Gun Kelly?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I was talking about his music last week, wasn't I? Was that on here?
Yeah. No, that was on
Unregistered Live after this. Yeah. It's some of the worst music I've ever heard. I mean, it was like shockingly bad. I thought he was not serious. I thought it was like when I first heard it, I thought it was like an amateur musician, like practicing. I mean, it's just so incredibly bad, but that's music in general these days. By the way, there was a really good podcast, Russ Roberts, Econ Talk. He just had on Ian, what's his name? And they talked about how pop music has changed in the last 20 years. It's way more, and this is like from data, like this from like actual data, like studying the songs. There's way less variation in pop songs now. There's no bridges anymore. There's no key changes anymore. There's way less variation. It sounds more and more the same. There's a dumbing down of pop music that's been going on the last 20 or so years that, that's what we're talking about. But, I mean, at the same time, though, there's like this incredible flowering of all kinds of fabulous music that's super creative and original. It's readily available. But what's listened to in the mainstream, what most people are listening to is getting dumber and dumber and simpler and more childlike. And I don't know. Are you concerned about that?
Well, let me show you the clip. Well, I was coming at something a little different. I think that's just more of a function of streaming services and also the just corporations taking less and less risks on music,
Okay.
where it used to be, talent scouts just trying whatever works and seeing what sticks. But
Right.
here's daytime television, MGK on the Drew Barrymore Show.
Okay.
I'm like having a really weird day, so I don't want to come off like I'm cold or I'm like shy. I'm a little insular and I'm just having an odd day.
You're in a really safe space. The other day, I walked in here and I started crying at the beginning of the intro. We started here in a pandemic and everybody was terrified. And I think this show, this space, was born in a time where we get to keep it very real and be honest. Maybe you can feel that in the room and feel safe.
I think I'm new to being vulnerable outside of songs, so it's like I see a lot of pictures of me, and there's like smiles on them, and I'm always like, it's just weird though, because I didn't feel good at all that day, and I kind of am sick of smiling on days when I don't feel like smiling, and I feel like this odd pressure because I don't want like my fans to think that I'm taking something for granted. So if like I accept an award and I'm like super smiley, but behind the scenes there was like stuff going on, or I didn't feel, I don't know. A lot of what I do is for other people, and I haven't given myself the time to just accept that it's okay to not be okay. So
He sure is pretty.
Yeah, I thought that would horrify you into ever like apologizing for ever saying anything about the feminization of men being a good thing.
I mean, what bothers me is just how stupid he is, and unoriginal. I mean, the music is just like, as I said, it's like, it sounds like it fell off a truck. Like there's no creativity at all, and he has nothing to say whatsoever. But yeah, he looks good.
Okay.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
The tats are horrible. The tats are horrible too.
The tats are horrible. Yeah, I don't know why that's being promoted. That's definitely a psyop. Like somebody at the Clintons is telling all the female celebrities to go after skinny white dudes with horrible tattoos.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what really is going on though in that clip is, it's another example of sort of the not just the feminization of culture, but it is it's the therapeutic culture, right? That's what we're seeing here. This is so prominent now, where we must talk about our feelings and our vulnerabilities, and we must be here to, create a safe space for one another so that we can talk about our vulnerabilities, which is all basically ends up being just an exercise in narcissism. And I think some narcissism is just fine, but this is a narcissism that's uninteresting to me. That tends to go nowhere and tends to all sound the same. Everyone ends up having the same problems, or at least they use the same words to describe their problems, and nothing gets accomplished. Nothing gets healed. Nothing gets fixed. No one actually feels better. We just get to sit in a room and talk about us to captive strangers.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, Norm Macdonald had this anecdote about how the happiest day of his life was he was an assistant for a blind person, and all he had to do for that blind person was describe the world around him. And so he was focusing on the outside world and not focusing on himself. And he completely forgot about himself. He was not self-obsessed. And that's what made him happy, is focusing on something else. And I think somebody did an analysis of like suicidal poets. And the number one commonality that they found is just the use of the word I over and over again, an obsession on the self all the time.
It makes you less happy.
Yeah.
Ironically, narcissism makes the self less happy. So stop being narcissistic. Yeah, no, being outside yourself, of course, is the cure for most things. This is why I think, volunteering and charity and stuff like that is actually fantastic. Not because of the do-gooder aspect of it, because you're not really going to affect much in the world, really, but it's going to make you feel a lot better, and you'll help at least one person, which is a good thing. But yeah, absolutely, get outside of your head, and then touch the grass. We have to go. we are going to go to Unregistered Live, which is our weekly Zoom meeting after this show every Thursday night. Immediately after Unreported, we hang out at Unregistered Live, and that is for patrons. And at any level, you can come hang out with us. And by the way, we now have a new policy. We are no longer recording. We're no longer recording our Unregistered Live sessions, so people can say whatever they want to say. And boy, last week they sure did. So if you want to join us, and it's very cheap, you can get into Unregistered Live at any level on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/unregistered. Become a patron at any level. You'll see the URL link for tonight's Unregistered Live right there, and come hang out. And there you go. We're going to go.
Sweet. Dang, we didn't get to talk about the Pope. We might do that behind the paywall, but see you over there. See you on the other side.
My feelings on the Pope. See you on the other side.
Yeah. You're a papist. Got it.